Okay. All right. So now that we've watched the model video of the first 5 minutes with emphasis on classroom entry, what do you notice about differences and similarities between the model and then what teacher leaders on your campus are practicing for those 24% who aren't necessarily meeting the expectation with fidelity?
Yeah, so one of the big things is just getting out there in a timely manner to greet the students before they start trying to walk in the classroom or before they start disrupting because they're tired of waiting. So getting our teachers out there at an appropriate time would be my number one step. And after that, ensuring kind of like a 3-point model. One, ensuring that they can see all the students when they're speaking to them and all the students can hear them. So looking for that fist up, listen up, looking for them to take a pause and scan, and then looking for them to give clear directions. So fist up, listen up, scan, clear directions, which is, I think, further breakdown than what we did at PD. We talked about those things, but when we were practicing, it was like, okay, that's easy because you have teachers lining up for the most part. With students, it's a little bit different. So making sure they take the time to do that.
Excellent. And all those aspects are really key things to look at. And I want you to keep those in mind.
Okay.
And so I'm going to kind of review what the expectation is.
Okay.
And then I want you to just take some notes on if anything really jumps out at you in relation to what maybe you can add when you're talking with teachers, because ultimately in our do it or reteach, we want to go back and build the PE model to reteach exactly what we expect for those teacher leaders who still haven't necessarily met those expectations yet. So we know during the first 5 minutes of class, it is imperative we build inconsistent expectations for scholars that leave no room for off-task behavior. The first 5 minutes of your class is the time to take care of last-minute preparation items. So we're thinking of this as we're talking to teachers so they understand the why. We always start with the why, right? The first 5 minutes consist of a smooth classroom entry where scholars are provided lightning quick direct instructions of what to do when entering the classroom. Once instructions for entering the room are provided, you can begin greeting your scholars at the door while scanning for on and off task scholars. Students on task should be briefly praised for meeting expectations. This also gives students who are possibly unsure of what to do an exemplar to follow. Students who do not meet your expectations should be given one opportunity to do it again before additional staff support is needed, because you cannot waste too much time getting an off-task scholar to meet simple directions. A behavior tech can support an off-task scholar unable to meet classroom entry expectations after being given multiple opportunities. This in turn will reinforce the expectation that if you do not follow simple directions, you do not enter the classroom. Once students enter the class, it is crucial that scholars are provided a 5-minute warm-up activity, or do now, so that scholars have a quiet activity to work on. So, in summary, our model, and if you haven't written anything, please write this down, is for the teacher leaders to be in position before class begins, at least 30 seconds. Teacher leaders to give lightning quick directions or instructions how to enter the classroom. The teacher can then begin their teacher greeting, welcoming students as they enter the room, making sure they establish a strong square up and perch that allows them to observe on-task and off-task scholars, while giving praise and redirects and do it again instructions to those who might not be compliant. And then lastly, we want to make sure we have a do now prepared as scholars walk in, and be sure to refrain from answering individual questions that can be addressed when you go over the do now as a class. And so this gives that teacher time, right? And so in seeing the gap, after we kind of seen the model and we understand exactly what we're looking for, the 20% of teachers do now is taking 5 to 15 minutes too long. And that time can be spent on instruction. All right. So based on what we've discussed so far, what do you think your action step should be, knowing our gap is about 5 to 15 additional minutes?
Is it, can I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
This 5 to 15 minutes, is it due to the first 5 protocol? Is that what costing the time, or is the task too large for do now?
Well, it is not. It is because we're unorganized
Okay.
in giving those
Alright.
clear directions. So teachers are too busy answering questions that they could have addressed in their opening using an economy of language. Sometimes I see the teachers not even at their post, still writing the
Okay.
do now when students are lining up for class. And so it's a multitude of things, but mainly not having the do now prepared, a teacher not being on their post,
Yep.
and also when they actually get out there, I'm noticing that they're not in a perch or post that actually they can see the entire class. The entire
Yeah.
class can see them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on here.
Right.
The number one would be the last thing that you said, would be, first off, have that perch to be able to see all the kids, because you have to build that relationship and you have to build that authority.
Mhm.
They have to know, what's going on, and they have to know you. I think that's the first step. Secondly, the teacher has to have a do now there for the kids that's ready and easy for them to understand. So I'm not sure if you want to discuss how I would coach that, but first would just be getting outside of the classroom organized before they even get in the classroom. Because if they're coming from outside disorganized, it's just going to lead to more disorganization inside.
Okay.
So that would be my number one, would be that squaring up, seeing the students, giving clear directions about how to enter the classroom.
Okay. Yeah, we're right on the same page.
Okay.
So thank you, and I appreciate you highlighting the post and having the do now ready, because it's a minimal amount of teachers. Remember, most of your
Yeah.
teachers are meeting this
Yep.
expectation, but
Yep.
we just want to make sure we're working with fidelity, and 100%
Yeah.
of our teachers are meeting the expectations for our routines and procedures, because then those become gap classrooms that problems can occur down
Yeah.
the road, right? Where
Yeah.
students don't see that consistency.
And there can be some easy wins for do nows that'll help. Once the teacher gets the entry through, then I can discuss with them about their do nows and getting those in order.
Right. And so, based on what we discussed, I would like you to write this action step down.
Okay.
So, we're going to name exactly what we need to do as far as our action step. So, your action step today will be to limit your teacher leader's classroom entry and do now time to 7 minutes. And we're going to do this by reteaching and practicing perfect procedures, specifically with Mr. Bernard and Ms. Price, using the adult culture PD presentation that highlights how teachers are expected to do the following. And we'll list our how now. So number one, before the teacher greeting, the teacher is giving lightning quick entry instructions.
Okay.
The teacher will need to establish a strong square up perch that allows you, the teacher, to observe on task and off task scholars while giving praise and redirects and do it again instructions. Then the third step within the how of our action step would be to have make sure teachers have a do now prepared as scholars walk in, and coaching our teacher leaders to refrain from answering individual questions that can be addressed when going over the do now as a class.
Yeah. And that, with the silent start, that level 0 silent start can really help, I think, to work there as well.
Okay. And so, if you could go over our action step, can you
Yep.
repeat it back to me?
Our action step. We're going to limit teacher classroom entry and do now time to 7 minutes. We're We're going to do this by focusing on reteaching our staff, practicing perfect with them, and we'll use the adult PD presentation to ensure that we get everything done correctly. How we're going to do this is in 3 steps. We're going to be focusing on the before with the teacher greeting, lightning quick entry instructions. Establishing a strong square up, a perch where they can observe all the scholars to provide both praise, redirection, and do it again directions. And finally, focus on creating a quality do now prepped for scholars as they walk in at level 0 voices, so they can focus the remaining time on their do now rather than asking teachers questions.
Okay.
And
Excellent.
teachers can get attendance done.
Excellent.
Yay!
And so, all right. So next we're going to do it. And we're going
All right.
to actually go into what this looks like. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you our script and let's allow you to review our script for coaching our teacher leaders up on a proper first 5 minutes of class,
Okay.
with emphasis on the classroom entry. Once we actually look through our professional development piece, we'll actually model what this will look like in real time.
Okay.
Okay, where I will play the role of school leader, and you might play the role of teacher,
Okay.
and we might switch,
Okay.
right, and to give each other feedback.
Alright.
I will always play for this particular session, I'll play the role of school leader, you'll play the role of teacher, we'll practice for about 2 rounds.
Okay.
I want you to look for errors, or what errors would occur if this was happening in real time.
Okay.
And so when we talk about body position, sometimes we aren't using a timer to make sure we're kind of
Yeah.
keeping pace with our pacing plan. Then also kind of looking at economy of language.
Okay.
For round 2, we'll increase the complexity just a bit, and we will actually exhibit what this round will look like, not for necessarily a non-compliant student, but we're going to play the role of a non-compliant teacher.
Oh.
And what we will do in real time to coach
Okay.
that teacher up, and
Okay.
potentially doing the whole class reset or do it again, or whatever aspect we need to see done correctly. Okay? So we'll go ahead and get into our
Okay.
practice mode. Okay.
Let's do this.